watching NotesIn9.
Hello, and welcome to NotesIn9. I'm David Leedy. Episode 190, Barcode Scanning in XPages, getting to the root of the DOM. Okay, this is the start of my big 10-episode countdown. I'm trying to do a nice, hopefully good 10-show run to 200. So most of these, or all these, are probably going to be me. So if you don't like me, contributors can come afterwards. But I'm going to try to do these on my own. So I hope you like them. And at the end of the 10 show countdown, hopefully if I time it right, and I might not, but if I time it right, we will have MW Lug. So I am all into MW Lug. I'm going to try to be at least a baby sponsor of some sort. I'm going to attempt to speak. I don't know what I'm going to speak about yet, so if you have any ideas, let me know, please, because they're going to open abstracts very shortly. But MW Lug is in Austin, Texas this year at August 17th, 19th, and I can't wait. There's barbecue, there's going to be friends, there's going to be all sorts of good stuff. They might even have a beer or two. So I highly recommend you come out to this. It's very affordable. It's a great city from what I hear, and I literally cannot wait. Okay, so we're going to talk about barcode scanning, which is something I do in the day job all the time because I'm basically in charge of inventory, and it is helpful. And I just wanted to, before we get into the demo, these are the scanners we use with iPads. So I just have an XPages web application because we don't want local applications because of people doing things at the same time. You got to sync and all that crap, or so we don't need them. All this scanner is a keyboard that you pair with your iPad, or you could even use a phone or an Android. There's nothing special about it. You pair it with Bluetooth, and then you just scan away. Now, what's kind of interesting about this particular scanner from Serial.io is if you see that big button there, that's obviously the scan button. But what happens in iOS is when it detects you have a Bluetooth keyboard attached to it, you can't have it doesn't show the on-screen keyboard. Okay, well, that's a problem if you're scanning something and then you have to actually type notes about it, whether it's damage or whether it's a new item you're creating or something like that. You still have to be able to get to that keyboard. So if you can see it on the screen, behind that big button is a tiny little button there. And what that button does for us, at least, is it brings up the on-screen keyboard. So it's very easy to get to that on-screen keyboard when we want to with this particular scanner, which actually is pretty old. I think we're looking at a new one now. I'm not sure. So, but anyway, these scanners have served us well, and we're happy with them. And again, it's just a Bluetooth keyboard. Okay, so in today's demo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how we solved. I'm going to say we because it's mostly Declan, because he's a genius. A problem that the users have been asking for a number of years, quite honestly, is I had this application where they have to tap into the edit box, and then they hit the Bluetooth scanner, to zap a barcode, and then the partial refresh fires, and it checks something in or checks something out, or brings up the details of the item or whatever the page they're on. They can do. So it's been working great for years or so, but they didn't want to tap into that edit box. I don't know why. I think it's kind of lazy, but the users are the users, right? So they wanted to just be able to scan, just scan. Well, scan where? It's kind of like in the Notes client with quick search, right? So where do you start typing to search? Jump in a view. You don't. You just start typing. So finally, I decided to put some time into thinking about a solution, which I didn't have, so I asked Declan, and he told me the solution, and the demo is how I implemented that solution. So let's go to the demo. Okay, so we're going to look at this page here. We're not going to worry about the guts of the page, just the main content area. And this comes right from the day job. And on the day job, I do a lot of applications dealing with inventory. And we have this barcode scanner that's connected to an iPad. It's this Bluetooth scanner. And it's kind of cool. But all it is a keyboard, right? So we don't need a local app. We just need a web page. The user will tap in here to this target of scan barcode. And it's a little big. I have it bigger and styled nicer, hopefully on the iPad or so. But they're going to type in a number. I'm going to type in 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to hit enter, and you do something with it, which I don't have in this demo or so. But I'm basically taking what was typed in and I'm adding processed in to simulate that I've processed. I've checked it out of the building. I've checked it into the building. I've done whatever I can do, whatever I want to do at this partial refresh. So we've been doing this for years. It's great. They're happy for the most part as users go, and they tap in and they go like this. But gosh darn it, a couple years ago they said, I don't want to tap. Personally, I think you're a little lazy. Just tap and be happy. But they don't want to tap. They just want to scan it in. And I told them I didn't know how to do that. Quite honestly. And then one of the problems is on iOS. You can't set this as the default field value. I think because Apple, doesn't want you to go on a website and then automatically have the on-screen keyboard come up or something like that. So you can't easily just open a page and put a cursor, a typable cursor, into a field in Safari and iOS. They just don't allow that. So okay, so I just totally go pound sand for forever. And probably I should have asked Declan, and said, hey, Declan, here's what they want to do. Any thoughts on that? And within 2 minutes he told me what to do, and we moved on with life and stuff like that. So instead of tapping in here and then hitting the barcode, notice there's no cursor here, so my focus is not in here. I'm clicking in the white area. There's nothing in the cursor. And it still works. So I'm using my keyboard to simulate the barcode scanner by typing some keys and hitting enter. That's exactly what the barcode does. But you no longer have to tap into this field to trigger the barcode, which makes them extremely happy, quite honestly. So the point of this demo is how does that work? Okay, so let's look at that. I'm going to close that, and I'm going to close that, and we're going to look at this page, and I've got a controller for this page. Okay, but there's no real Java. I mean, I don't have to have Java. My first demo didn't have Java, but I do everything with Java controllers. So we're gonna look at that. But you don't need Java for this demo. So this is how I set up my controller. Just a simple object data, and I've got this class controller.demos_barcode. Okay, and that just gives me a few things. But again, that's not the meat of the the demonstration that I've got here. Okay, so inside here, so I've got this panel. But once I get through all my layout crap, and I've got this input text here, right? So for the input barcode, and there's a couple things here, and I know I've got this twice. So once I've got this placeholder saying scan barcode, and then I don't know which one works. Maybe they both work. But I do turn autocorrect off because let me tell you, if you scan barcodes, and the barcodes are based on a Lotus Notes @unique, certain people's names the iOS will try to autocorrect the spelling, and then it doesn't work the scanning because iOS has changed it for you to be helpful. Really, it's not that helpful. So there is a way to turn off autocorrect. One of these does it. Maybe both of them do it. I'm not quite sure. But right now I've got both of them in, and it's working. I'm happy. Okay. And then in the event handler for this, and if we look here, and I'm really just doing this to take off my buddy Chris too, because he does everything in the source, and I like to use these panes here when I can. So on this key press right now, I've got controller process code, and I'm doing a partial update. Okay, so basically, when you actually do tap into this field, and I've got this client side code here too, and this is basically saying if it's an enter key, then prevent default. Because what can happen here is when you hit enter key, that can also sometimes be a submit on the page, and if you're not careful, you have two things going on. So you get a submit, and then you get the partial refresh, and the submit screws you up. Because if you're using like ViewScope or something like that, your thing is lost, or it's going to try to scan it twice. So that's kind of annoying. So two ways to get around that submit problem is this whole, try to capture the dojo enter key and then doing this prevent default thing. Or another thing you can do, which I have done, is if you just put another input edit box, another editable control, but just hide it in CSS, problem solved too, because now there's two fields on there, and I guess it doesn't know which one you're hitting when you hit enter. And I think I got that from Julian Buss. I'm not sure. So anyway, that's not even really the meat of this. So I've got this guy here, and on key press, it's going to go through this, but it's really just looking for the enters. So when it's an enter, it returns true. If it's not an enter, it returns false. So we can type it in, and it only gets submitted on the enter. And I guess I could use on change. I forget the issues around that, but right now I've got to work with key press, and I'm pretty happy. And then what's going to happen is it's going to enter this process code, and that goes back to the controller. And all I have in the controller is I've got a method for scan code and last scan. Okay, so this is bound to the controller scan code. Now, normally I might do just a view scope variable here, or because I don't need to hold on to it that long, but because I've got a controller, well, why use the view scope when you can make use of the controller? So this is bound to scan code. So when the partial refresh happens, it calls set scan code, and what I do is I capture I set it to this internal method or internal variable here, last scan, and then I clear out scan code, and that's what gets me the blanking, when I'm done. Because as soon as I'm done, I want to blank that so that it's ready for the next scan, right? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so we do the set scan code, and then I've got this method here, process scan code, or process code, and all that does is it takes the last scan, and I'm just adding this text to it, but normally I would update my inventory database or whatever, whatever you want to do in there. Okay, so now the question is, which is why I'm doing this, is if I don't tap in here, so this hopefully is pretty self-explanatory. Just coming in here and doing the on key press or an on change if you wanted to try that, and then you do a partial refresh. But how do you get this business going on when you're not doing the tap into the field? Okay. And again, everything I learned in kindergarten, I learned from Declan, so he helped me with this because it's client side JavaScript. So I have here. Oh, it's not showing up. I'm surprised. I thought it might be like a little icon or so. So I've got an event handler. Oh, it's because it's an on-client load. So in on-client load, I've got this event handler. And what this is doing, this is going to be bound to the document itself. So the document, I'm not a client-side JavaScript guy, but the document is the highest level of the DOM on the web page, I believe. So I'm going to first create an input variable, and then on key press, and this one here has to be key press rather than on key up or on key down. Because if you try to do on key up or on key down, you want an asterisk. When asterisk is shift 8, that's 2 keys. So that's a pain. So use key press. So shift 8 actually comes back to be the asterisk. Okay, so I do if filter. So first I have to filter this thing. And I got this from, there's an open source project out there designed to do this, and I just basically stole this function for it. I forget the name of it. I should have written it down. But I don't want this to kick on inside an input, select, or text area. I only want it to kick on if we're on the document itself, basically. Okay, so if I'm already in an input, then forget it. All bets are off, and we're gonna avoid that. Okay, so if we're on the document, basically, then I'm going to say to my input variable, I'm going to add to it whatever key has been pressed. And if that key happens to be an enter, okay, we don't need the console, all that crap, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little jQuery here, and this actually comes from the extension library, so it's available in the extension library. Originally was written by Marky Roden, and I'm going to basically take my edit box, that input barcode, and I'm going to put whatever they type into it. Okay, so I don't have to change a lot of code or duplicate my code or so. So I'm basically going to capture from the document, throw it into the barcode thing, and then I'm going to process that partial refresh that I've got tied to it. And how do I do that? And first, then once the enter hits, then I'm going to clear it here, just so this is ready for the next scan as well. And then finally, to kick off that partial refresh, there's this, now this I believe is undocumented, so use this at your own risk. But it was mentioned on Stephen Wissell's blog, and I think in the XPages portal command guide, but this fire event. So I'm going to say fire the event, the key press event, and it's going to be in the ID of scan now. That's going to be the event. So you can actually assign an event, assign an ID to an event handler. So normally you don't have this, if you look at your event handlers or so, but you can actually put one on here and then target it. So I'm saying fire this event handler, if we find it here, and then that is, I believe, fire this event handler that is tied to this control. So that's how it knows to get there, I believe. And I kind of forget what these are. But the key is it's not a lot of code. Again, I don't have a demo database just yet. So here's the code for you to get a good look at. And it works. And I believe the partial refresh comes from in here. So it fires this. It knows to refresh, this main content here. And Bob's your uncle. Then it's done. So that is how we get, to just type in at the document level to do this. So this is how you can also do maybe a Control C, or if you want to have like hot, shortcuts to bring up dialog boxes or whatever, you would want to tie that to the document of the DOM and stuff like that, and you can capture that stuff. And that is that is your demo. And that's the demo. I hope that was interesting. If you have any questions, here's my contact information, and I thank you for your time.